Hello, everybody. It's 7:15 p.m. in Ireland. It's time for SSI Live. I welcome you from any part of the world you are coming from. So, our very welcome, and I hope you enjoy this live today. We have prepared this with much care for you, and we have a special guest today, as usual. Let's having these people talking to us and giving us a different perspective from the spiritism. So this is amazing. And today we're gonna have Tania Schuwartz, and she's founder and she's current president of the Cardiac Spirits Group in Austin, Texas. And she has been at the board of directors of the United States Spiritist Federation for the last 7 years. So is a person with a lot of knowledge to share with us. So please enjoy this time. But before I bring her up here, I'd like to invite everyone to do our initial prayer together. And I ask you to raise up your thoughts towards Jesus, towards our mentors. Ask them to be with us today. Enlight our speaker today. May Tania could give us a little bit of her knowledge, a little bit of her wisdom in order to help us to acquire more information, to become a better person, and how we can deal with our day-to-day problems, our day-to-day challenges. Please may this prayer reach out to all the brothers and sisters, incarnate and discarnated, whatever they are. May this bring a little peace, a little hope and faith to everyone. So be it. Amen. Okay, let me bring here Tania, and we can kick off here. Hey, Tania.
Hi,
how are you?
How are you doing, Steven? How is everybody?
Yeah, so this is us. Unfortunately, it's not in presence, so we cannot see everybody's faces.
Yeah.
But by the names I'm seeing here, it's a lot of people, a lot of works of the SSI. I'm so glad they are joining us. They are keeping their working day as usual. That's the most part thing. Like the COVID lock us at home, but didn't lock the spiritual teachings, the spiritual meetings.
That's yeah.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
Today, we're going to talk about the influence of the spirits in our life. And as I said, Tania, she's president of the Cardiac Spirits Group in Austin. She's the founder as well, and she's a member of the United States Spiritist Federation. For those who don't know, Austin is the capital of Texas, not Dallas, the capital of Texas. I know this is a lot of mistakes,
I felt like saying that because it is true. Nobody really knows that well to know that it is the capital, and it's beautiful. I really recommend you guys come and visit sometime. As soon as we can travel around, that will be a great destination to come.
Yeah, great. Okay, Tania, let me put up here your presentation. So, can you see? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So, thank you again. So, our group is yours now. So, break a leg. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Steve, and thanks, Spirit Society of Ireland. Thanks, everybody who is watching. We are going to be talking about a topic that is really important in our lives, because even if we don't realize, the spirits are influencing our lives really more often than we can think of. And we will start by some considerations. Let's think about if we have thought or have had thoughts that are completely different than the ones that we normally have, those unusual thoughts that come to mind. And have we ever woken up and feeling that we have the answer, the solution of that problem that has been bugging us for a while and suddenly pops up in our minds? Also, do we really consider the situation that the thoughts can be from the spirits and not from us? All this, we'll be talking about and how this happens. Today, we'll be talking about the influence of the spirits in our lives. And let's start by defining what spirits are. The spirits are the intelligent beings of creation. So it's us without the physical body. So we learn that as our body dies, our life continues. And so sometimes we are incarnated, sometimes we are discarnated, but we are all spirits. And when we think in that perspective as immortal spirits, it gets a little bit easier for us to understand the relationship between both the physical and the spiritual worlds, the visible and the invisible, as we sometimes will say. So we don't just go to a place, good or bad. We, as spirits on the other side of life, we continue having our thoughts and our feelings. So this net of thoughts and feelings will connect all of us, incarnated and discarnated. And so the influence we are talking about from the spirits towards us, but it's both ways, the same way that we also can get influenced by other incarnated, and we also influence other incarnated. So, where are the spirits? Different than some people might think, they are not restricted in the spirit center. Some people sometimes will even be worried about going to a spirit center, thinking that there the spirits are and that they're going to be encountering or manifesting there. Actually, the spirits are everywhere. So no point in being scared to be there, because they are everywhere. They are mingling with us on the streets and at work, in our homes. Sometimes when we travel, take a plane, they'll be there, they'll be in the car, they'll be everywhere. And there are many categories of spirits. The ones that are more evolved, they're busy working and helping others. And there are also those spirits that are not aware of their situation, that they are in the spiritual world. They are sometimes upset about being there. They don't like that idea, or they miss their earthly activities or things or people. Some have in their hearts a lot of cruelty still, or some will be just frivolous, or they just like us, incarnated. That's the summary of the story. We don't change. We are who we are until we choose to make the necessary changes in our lives. So that said, we connect through the law of affinity. So the company that we have, the kinds, the categories of spirits that will be surrounding us, they will depend on our line of thoughts and feelings. Okay, it's easier to understand if we make an analogy with our friends on Earth. So we are on Earth, a planet of trials and expiations, and a planet where we're working still on our inner transformation, in becoming a better person, in learning the laws of God in a sense that will help us make the necessary changes, and from one reincarnation to the next, becoming a better person. Well, that said, our friends and people around us here incarnated, they are on the same boat. So they will have opinions, they have their own values, they are still struggling also to learn. Well, the difference between them and the spirits is that when a friend of ours will give us a suggestion or their own opinion, we see them and we hear them. So we know that that's external, that's coming from somebody else. It's easier for us to accept or reject an idea that does not agree with us. When they come from the spirits, then that's a different story because we don't see them. And we don't even realize that sometimes that thought is trying to influence us, but it's not ours. And if we are not vigilant, we can either accept a thought that is not a great one, or we can miss the opportunity of accepting a thought that comes from the good spirits, and we miss that boat. So the important thing is understanding that that influence exists, and it's very real, to the point that if I start accepting those thoughts as mine and I start acting on them, we are going to almost like having an extra personality, because sometimes we cannot even recognize what we are doing. But that is only if I'm not paying attention. And that's why we are here talking, so that it's a good reminder for all of us to pay attention at our thoughts, even if we're not sure whose thought that is, right? So we wonder how common or rare that is. So in the Spirit's book, question 459, Allan Kardec will ask the spirits, do spirits influence our thoughts and actions? And the answer is surprising, because they say their influence is greater than we think, for very frequently it's they, the spirits, who guide us. Well, we are not puppets. We have our intelligence. We know the right and wrong. We know what we are here for. And independently on our beliefs, we are trying to do the best we can. But it is our responsibility, no matter whose idea that is, the action we're going to be taking right after that influence. So we're not victims. We are not here and say, poor me, I got influenced by a spirit and now I made a mistake. No, we actually are responsible for the attraction of that spirit. So let's get an example to make it clear. If I hate someone and I start planning revenge, I'm going to connect with the spirits with that same kind of intention. They like that idea. And they're going to be there giving me suggestions the way I can get the revenge. to be successful. Well, I can connect with that if that's what I'm looking for. But if I still with the same feeling of hate, well, I'm hating that same person, but I'm trying very hard now to forgive, to find a different path, to be able not to take any action against that person. Well, now the feelings start the same, but I'm going to be connecting with those spirits that will be helping me or trying to influence me in forgiving, in if not forgiving, at least not taking the path of revenge. So the it does not mean that the good spirits are not there when I'm connecting with those that are helping me otherwise. But they are there, but we choose not to listen. We block their influence. So it's not that they're not there, it's us not listening. And they are not going to go against our free will. They cannot live our experiences or living our lives. They will continue trying, influencing us, sometimes even through other people around us. Sometimes we're not listening, but then they find ways to a friend who is listening, and an incarnated friend, actually. And through that friend, they will get to us at least their idea of how to overcome that moment that we're going through in a very negative way. So they try to change that into positive, right? So how does that influence happen? Uh, our thoughts are the expression of our feelings. So when I send that thought to the universe, it propagates in space, moves, and will connect with those spirits that have the same kind of intentions, or the same, they're in that same wave of thought. And it's almost like, let's imagine of turning on the radio. And when we turn on the radio, we're going to be tuning in the radio station that we like, that the music that we want to listen to. So that's how the spirits also connect with us, by the affinity of interests. So if I send a joyful thought to the universe, that thought will will connect with the spirits that are also joyful. They are feeling that joy. And the connection between the two will increase the intensity of that feeling. So good thoughts will connect with good spirits, and bad thoughts will connect with those that are not so good. So this net of thoughts and feelings, they are connecting all of us, incarnate and discarnate, right? And so it is our responsibility on the thoughts that we send to the universe is great. It's major. It matters, right? So the moment that I also think of somebody who's incarnated, we are sending the kind of energy that we have towards that person or that situation. So if I have resentment towards someone, and I send that kind of thought to that person, aiming that person might absorb it or not. Again, depending on the sensitivity, the affinity, and how that person is also with her or his kind of set of thoughts and feelings, right? So we're responsible for the things that we think, that we say, and how we take, and how we use that information in our benefit to do better for us and for the planet we live in. So let's imagine that we sometimes hear some bad news, right? Only sometimes. And I hear some bad news, let's say, on a serial killer. At that moment, my first thought is of indignation. We sometimes can get mad about the situation. We start blaming this and that person or the society. Well, if right then I don't take control of the things that I'm thinking and the thoughts that I'm sending towards that person, that situation, that piece of news, I can contribute to make it worse. And the psychosphere, that means the mental situation of the planet, that the community, will get worse. So instead of helping, I'm adding to the problem. But if instead, at the moment that I recognize the kind of thoughts that I'm having and I want to influence for the better, I'm able to take control. And instead, having thoughts of compassion, of love to those that are suffering, and even the perpetrator of that crime, instead of judging and making worse, because that person is going to have a lot to take care afterwards spiritually. It will be a hard path for him or for her. So instead of helping and having the compassion, if I do the opposite, I'm contributing to the worst for everybody. So then I switch and I start working on that in order to be a good influence to the whole planet and the whole situation. So incarnate or discarnate, this is our responsibility. The quality of my thoughts do matter. And why, and this again are questions in the Spirit's book, codified by Allan Kardec, asking the spirits now if it is important, can we distinguish which thoughts are mine, which thoughts are of that those spirits? Well, here it's very hard. They say it's hard. See question 461, to distinguish between our thoughts and the suggested ones. Sometimes they get so mixed that we can't tell. Sometimes it's more obvious because they are so different than we are used to think, or the line of thoughts that we usually are part of, that we wonder. We cannot be sure. But, and we tend to like to blame the spirits, especially when the thoughts are not very positive. So it's very easy to hear, no, I couldn't be thinking that way. That might be an influence of a spirit that is unaware. This is not a good thing to do. Well, first of all, let's admit that we're still working on our in evolving, in becoming a better person. So there will be times that we might ourselves think of thoughts that are not so we're not so proud of. But the important thing of trying to distinguish, it is exactly to be able to control or change or realize where we are still in this process. The self knowledge is key for us to work on our transformation. If I don't know myself, if I don't know that I'm still capable of hating or being upset about the situations or judging or whatever is something that can be negative, we are not going to make any efforts to change. So we can have a better control on ourselves. As a consequence, we're going to be start attracting better company. So it is hard, but it is part of our process of learning. And as part of this process, it's also important to know what real feelings, be sincere to ourselves. If we're still having feelings that are not really, we give good names to them. So, in the name of love, sometimes we use kind of chains, mental chains of those people that we are actually attached to. Because love free those that we love. We still love, we are far away. We are in a situation now that our families, we cannot even go and visit them, far away, but love is still there. So the same as we go to the spirituality and we have to separate temporarily from that being that we love so much, if we love for real, we are not going to try to use our love in order to influence for something negative. The moment that I'm desperate, evoking the presence of that spirit close to me, evoking the help for help, asking for help, we are now in that situation that we are the ones influencing negatively that spirit that we claim to love. So, and then that spirit might be in a situation that they're not evolved enough to detach from us. And then we create this connection that it's in detriment of our evolution and their evolution. We keep their energies connect to ours in things that are not supposed to be that way. So it doesn't mean that when we miss somebody we love and the person is in the spiritual side, spiritual realm, that we cannot cry, that we cannot say, I miss you, and with the hope that that person is well, that spirit is well wherever he or she is, and not close to me, being selfish, asking to be close to us and desperate for that reason. So what we do is recognize how we're feeling, what we are feeling, and being able to manage in a better way. The same happens when we have the opposite kind of feeling, a feeling of hate or a feeling of resentment that we can't forgive sometimes. And what we do in that situation, in many cases, is to also chain the person, that spirit towards us. And sometimes you hear me saying person because it's a person without the body, right? So it's a spirit. That's the obviously it is a spirit. But anyway, so imagine someone when that harmed our kid, and we resent, we can't forgive, and that person will end up passing away, and we continue connected by hate. The person has the feeling of guilt, and then this connection gets so strong. Then we see situations that this will last for a long, long time. The energy will influence us, and now we have that bad connection, and we continue having suffering in both ends. So let's watch our feelings, our real feelings, and who we really are. And then we wonder, we have the tool of prayer. This is a conscious request of the influence of the spirits. So the moment that we need the help, we need this connection with the high spirits, and we pray or we elevate our thoughts to the good spirits, to Jesus, to God, to our mentors, well, we are connecting the same way. Now, remember, they're always there. They are uh, trying to help us. They are reminding us of the commitments that we had when before we reincarnated, and and we are asking. So let's listen. Right. That's the moment that we sometimes automatically we are going to be just saying words. No, that is a prayer. Is the direct connection with the spirituality. That's when we are able to be influenced directly, right? So it's important to recognize that these connections also are mistaken sometimes by some of us that are in this process of learning still, all of us are. And we see situations that are very unusual. People that will be requesting the influence of the spirits, thinking that they're praying, and they're actually connecting to the spirits in lower levels of evolution because what they're asking for is to help them harm someone. They are sometimes asking for their influence on some things that are not positive. And here we're talking about sometimes real crimes, right? Have you ever noticed, well, I'll say in the movies, because we prefer to think those things don't happen really. They do, but we prefer not to think that way, where people will pray for before they're about to commit a crime for them to be successful. Well, what kind of connection are we making there? Right? We're not being helped to commit a crime. Nobody was born with the mission of doing something wrong. So that is not going to be the help of the good spirits for sure. And then some people ask us, does it really exist the situation where people will ask for favors to other people who will bargain with the spirits to do things like black magic or equivalent? Or is there such a thing? Oh, yes, they exist. But in this thread of thought, let's understand that it is pretty much the same as if the previous talk, the conversation that we had before. When we are connecting directly and sending bad energies to somebody, bad thoughts, wishing bad things to someone, we're pretty much doing the same thing. We connect with the spirits with that same kind of energy. There is a connection between us. And then, if the person on the other side of the line is susceptible, is open, having the door open, because their thoughts and habits and behavior are in that same level of vibration, they can receive that might work. If we, on the other hand, are more connected to those other kinds of prayers and attitudes and living our lives in a different manner, uh, we are not going to be opening the doors for that to work. So we shouldn't fear what others can wish for us or do against us. This is not the case. We should definitely worry about what we are thinking, what we are doing, how we are connected. So we are able to avoid anything bad to happen. We're not immune. because we have our ups and downs. We have situations where we we are suffering, and we open those doors, even if for a few moments. And but we have also the possibility of neutralizing these negative influences. They come, and we'll talk about how to do that a little more. Right now, we are looking at some other questions from the Spirit's book, uh, asking those questions that come to our minds. How come? And are there those spirits that are tempting us to do something wrong? And why? Who are these spirits? Why do they do that? We said that they are unaware sometimes even of their situation or what they can do in order to get better or get out of that situation. They are imperfect spirits like we are, and they are suffering. They're not happy. They are spirits that sometimes they just focus on their misery, and they want company. They cannot stand the fact that other people are not feeling. They can't understand that. So this connection sometimes just happen uh, for reasons that they just are ignorant of the subject, and they believe that they don't deserve anything any better. So why would we deserve anything any better? So they take this, and they will continue being close to us and doing those things. But while we still have that said, we're going to bring a subject here, a term that some of us have seen, others not, but the term obsession. And there are different names and different beliefs as well of this kind of negative influence being so bad that it feels that we are not really acting on our own. Well, can be uh, uh, an obsession can be as simple as the influence that I was talking about. It was those thoughts that will come and go. But when it becomes persistent, continuous, it can get really serious. Well, there are types of obsessions. One of them is related to our previous lives, our previous reincarnation. So it gets a little more personal. So that spirit or spirits that they did not forgive us, they were not able to accept what we did against them. They continue trying to get justice. They're not patient enough to wait for the justice to happen through the laws of God. And they start compromise their own lives in the spirituality and continue attached to us. And if we did something wrong, despite of the fact that we can't remember in this reincarnation, it is there in our subconscious, and we feel guilty. And our guilt keeps connecting with those spirits. So that is to say that in these situations, it can be a little more complicated. It can get to a point where it gets to a subjugation. They know our thoughts, they see our core thoughts and feelings, and they keep feeding us and connecting to us in a way that it is harder for us to disconnect from them. And that's when we hear in the spiritist centers, for example, there are the mediumship meetings where there is a fraternal dialogues with these spirits through the mediums, helping them to find forgiveness in their hearts, or at least understand that if they cannot forgive, they can still connect to their loved ones and move on, so that that person and him or her will be able also to continue their evolution, finding a different path. So that's one kind of help in this situation. The same as listening to the teachings there in the talks, not only the incarnate but the discarnate also hear about the laws and about forgiveness and morals. And it's not a religion talk. It is related to our behavior and how we can, knowing ourselves, make the change in us. We cannot change others. So the obsessors and the incarnate, they start getting influenced by those good spirits as well, that are through the talks, through the help, through the magnetic passes, through the magnetized water, all that will help them as well in other temples, in other religions, listen to good thoughts and feelings and change the mindset to something positive. So this is a lot talking about negative influences. Obviously, here we are never alone. And we are going to be now talking about how we neutralize these negative influences. We talked about the help in the spiritist groups, in our temples. We have our families. We have the support of our friends here incarnated, and those other friends we're going to be saying they're the familiar friends, familiar spirits that are in the other side of life as well. But it's on us also to make our part, to try to change our mental house, let's say, our mental thoughts, our everything that we are working on in our behavior, in our thoughts, in the words we use, in the kind of things that we read, the books that we read, the movies we watch, the people. So we start working in our interests in being connected to our spiritual growth. The moment that we start looking at ourselves as immortal spirits and value the things that we are doing in a way that is not only related to the material things, but it is also especially related to what we are doing in our lives, we start changing. We start moving towards a different target. And therefore, we get very unattractive to those spirits that are trying to influence us negatively. And our obsessors, sometimes they say, whoops, what is happening to that person? What am I missing? And they might start paying attention on that attitude and trying to figure out what is helping me might help them as well. So again, we are not victims. So let's not put ourselves in that position. Let's try to find ways that we can neutralize any negative influence by being positive, not in a fake way, by being positive, by valuing life and value all the blessings that we have, everything that is around us that can help us move upward, right? Not only in thoughts, but in actions. Our good deeds, when we're helping others, we are not alone. We are never alone. But then we get more and more kind of a shield of light that will help us fight any bad influence with good influence. So that said, we are. It's important to know that nobody's immune, but we can get a little more immune than like now. We're trying to get immune in this situation of this virus. We're, you know, we are doing the best we can. So we do the best we can to be immune from bad influences as well. Maybe that was not a very good point, but you know what I mean. Anyway, the spirituality is very merciful. And like we said, we are never alone. So we talked about negative influence, but most and all the time, I should say, we are with our guardian angel. All of us have our guardian angel, also called the protective spirit, and they are much more evolved. They are assigned to us. We are never without a guardian angel. Like we said at the beginning, sometimes they're frustrated because we are not listening to them, and they're there working hard to help us. But it doesn't mean that they go away. They are there for the moment that we are ready to listen. We are the ones who sometimes block them, but let's listen. Let's pay attention and take advantage of the good advice. We also mentioned the familiar spirits, those who love us, who preceded us going to the spiritual world, and they are around. They still rooting for us. They cannot live our experiences, but they are there interceding in our favor. And the more merit they have, the more they're able to help directly or indirectly, and they are there. Besides our individual guardian angel and familiar spirits, they are the mentors. We every task, every organization, every work, street, the city, every community has the mentors that will be there influencing us to organize things in a way that will help the community, help us. We have now this situation where can you imagine how many celestial doctors are there influencing the ones here, helping them, helping the researchers, helping all of us go through the things that this pandemic times we're living right now are the challenges that we are going through. So we are never, never alone. So no matter what challenges we're facing, we have these spirits always there, the messengers of God, messengers that will be through thoughts, through our friends, directly, indirectly. And for those of us who have read some of the books that are by André Luiz and some other spiritist literature, André Luiz is a spirit that tell us about the world in the spirituality and give a lot of examples of the ways that the spiritual friends influence us, help us, many, many ways that they can be present in our lives. We just need to learn how to listen. So we are free to decide. We have the opportunity of following the masters, following those spirits that are really trying to help. And also, we can keep company, the company that are damaging to ourselves and to others, to the planet. So we leave here with some questions. What type of vibrations are we connected to? Every day, let's think about it. Let's stop for a few moments before we go to bed and think of the things we did, the thoughts we had, And even if we don't know if that is our thoughts, let's pay attention. Let's be vigilant. And what types of thoughts are we contributing to the universe? So, in this time that the planet is in need of our positive influence, with thoughts of hope and health and feelings of love and fraternity, let's be that person to add, to contribute to the positive, and realize that we are sons and daughters of God. We're all here to learn and grow spiritually, and that all the influences are there with a purpose. God will allow because we have our free will and it's our merit to make the right choices. So thank you so much for listening. Hope that that brings a little hope to all of us that we are in control of our lives and we can have the good thoughts and let the good spirits be part of our lives. Thank you.
Wow, what a talk. See, you were afraid of. Wow, it was amazing. You can see by the comments here. It's
Maybe I talked too much, right? I didn't have.
no, we didn't talk too much. Well, I would say we had we need to discuss any further. No, unfortunately, we have a short time, but this brings us to a lot of questions, like how you behave, how you treat, where your thoughts are, which kind of people you attract. I'm not saying about just about discarnate people. I'm saying about incarnate people as well.
Yeah.
So depends on the way you are, the way you behave. You attract people who tune with you, and sometimes you don't. You repel these from you. So it's more. This is a lesson we need to be aware 24/7 every time.
That's right. That's right. Because we jump so easily in blaming others. Everything that happens to us is somebody else's fault, right? And actually, it's our responsibility. That's the big thing about spiritism is we have the blessing of knowing that is in our hands to make the change.
Yeah.
And that's how it goes. It's a responsibility and a blessing.
Yeah. Well, and even though we can we have the power to change, but I would say most of us decide to say, "Oh, this is my I wanted the word that we can say. This is my faith. I need to suffer."
Yeah. We
and
don't need
and we don't need to suffer. That's the point, Yeah. Even though you have your reincarnatory plan to go to some trials, but it's up to you if you make this a problem to you, or you make this problem to put you forward.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a good point. We don't need to suffer. This if we are going through some difficult times, it is like you said, those trials or things that are by the law of cause and effect we are going through now. But if we are able to go through that with dignity and learning, make this in a learning process, we get rid of it. It doesn't, it's not as, it hurts, but it goes away and then we are able to move forward. If we get stuck in the suffering and we don't learn anything from it, we just repeat the lesson. We still, until we don't learn, it's like a school, right? We sometimes, if we're not a good student, well, we have to repeat the lesson. But it's not the teacher that is not teaching.
That's the blessing of the eternity. Huh?
Exactly.
We have a question here.
Hmm.
Tania, would you have any advice to get rid of bad thoughts? Sometimes I get stuck in a bad thought or feeling, and it is hard to change the vibration and stop feeding these bad thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's the question that all of us like the magic answer, right? It is an exercise, right? I think the moment that we start recognizing that bad thought comes in mind, and instead of just fighting it, we recognize and we try to identify ways that we can stop that process of feeding it. I think you kind of answer your question. Feeding is the worst thing we can do. The moment I have the thought, and then I try to say, okay, this is bad. So let me look into that person. Let me find some things that are positive. Okay, this situation is really bad, but what am I learning from this? What is the lesson behind it? So I kind of start not just avoiding the thought, but trying to make that into something that is useful to the learning process. Does that make sense? Instead of just being there and suffering through and worrying and repeating, and it's hard. It is an exercise. It doesn't
It
come
is.
automatically,
It is.
right?
It is an exercise. Sometimes we fail, sometimes we win. But the good point is that it changed the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of feeding these, like you said, she answered her question. Read a good book, listen to good music,
Mm-hmm.
watch a TV program. You know, put a YouTube. By the
Yeah,
way, listen SSI lives we have in YouTube recorded from previous times. So that's a
there we
good
go.
way you can.
There
Huh?
we go. And you know, the biggest tool that we have is always connecting with the high spirits, the good spirits. So if it is really hard and I'm by myself, I'm having trouble to disconnect with that bad thought, well, let's like I said, you can read a book, but you can also get a book with messages that will deviate my thought to something positive. We ask the good friends, the good spirits, to help us also clean our minds and our hearts from that feeling, and let be forgiving to ourselves too. We can't just be so harsh on ourselves that we want to jump and not have those thoughts. Well, it does happen. We admit it and we work on making the change.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we have a lot of people from Austin here today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, from Chicago as well, from Uruguay. See,
That's
it's
great.
going more than
Right.
overseas, huh?
Uh-huh.
From Uruguay, I have from Ireland in Galway, our group, the group in Galway. So it's a pleasure to have you here, guys. Thanks so much for supporting our work, supporting Tania's speech today,
Yeah.
and it's we don't have any more questions. It's about our time to wrap up.
Mhm.
So Tania, if you have any final message to everyone, and I also would like to invite you to do our final prayer. So
Mhm.
it's you again.
Okay, well, thanks again for this opportunity. It's a time that all of us are dealing in this, we're completely in a different uh, comfort zone, right? Where we are talking all virtually and we are supporting each other, which is great. That the spiritual side is there. We are searching, and we get this influence in a very positive way. Always, every time that we connect and we are together on this. So let's keep our good thoughts, and when the bad ones come, let's find help. Let's reach out to each other. in our spiritist groups, in our families, our friends, and let's pay attention at those that are alone, those that don't have that faith or they don't have hope. It's very, very key that we support each other. So that's a good reminder for all of us. And right now, uh, the best way for us to end is this connection with the spiritual friends. And that's what we're going to be doing. Now we close our eyes so it's easier not to get distracted. So we thank our spiritual friends for this opportunity, for all the love, the care, for everything they do for us, all the blessings that we have directly or indirectly. We thank for our lives, for the food, for the shelter, for us to be able to be searching spiritually the answers and also the support. We ask them to be with us, helping us throughout this whole time that we are going through these difficulties in the planet. We ask them to continue influencing those that are the decision makers, those that are searching answers and treatments and understanding all that is happening. So we thank you, all the spirits, all the incarnated that are supporting this talk, this moment together, and we take from the spirituality this great embrace of light and share with all of you. So be it.
Thank you very much. Well, my secretary here is, she thinks it's going to rain now, you know? Yeah. I would like to say also, if you cannot get rid of these bad thoughts, always look for the fraternal assistance in your spirit center. If you do, if you are in Ireland, or even though if you're not in Ireland, please drop an email to this fraternal gathering dublin@gmail.com, and someone gonna contact you, and we can talk. We can help you to overcome these bad moments as well.
And Stephen, if it is somebody who is in the US, feel free also to contact the United States Spiritist Federation to know about centers, about this, all the talks that are going, are happening, and the connections. Let's make connections with whoever we can to help us.
Yeah, exactly.
Reach out.
So I also would like to say as well, here in Ireland, we have a group of psychologists. They are doing a free booking, free service during this pandemic time. So here is the website. You can reach them and you can talk, because sometimes these bad moments is not just caused by spiritual friends, it's caused by other reasons. And it's good to say always we need to treat our spirit and to treat our body. So both together, it means you are in a perfect balance. No? And the last advice is, don't forget to do your gospel at home. This is important not just for you, but for your family as well. So, Tania, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Stay safe, stay well. I hope to see you in person here in Ireland.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
The better.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
come to Austin.
Okay, we will, and we will disclose here that is a symposium in the upcoming weeks. So we will share, and let's see a virtual symposium as well.
Yes, that's right. June
Okay.
6th and 7th, and will be about soul searching in a technological era. We'll have talks, a panel with the youth, talk about their lives and spiritism and technology. And also, Spiritism Ask Me Anything. So there'll be 1 hour of questions and answers.
1 hour challenging,
Yeah, so you guys send your questions to the speakers. So thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good night. Stay safe. I'll see you next Sunday. We do have our speech. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks.